Part 23. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 231. Ling left a farewell letter in Luoluo's room and ran away from home. This happened only a few hours ago. In the quiet morning, Aika could clearly hear the whispers outside the door, just like in a dream. I originally thought that after experiencing such a big commotion last night, I was the only one who got up so early now. But he was wrong. They had the same mood as each other, and they couldn't sleep peacefully. Aika intuitively pointed out that Ling's true identity was her magic costume, the light flame sword. This was just a baseless guess. Magical equipment is a special magic machine, and magic machines have independent consciousness. This ridiculous speculation turned out to be true. Furthermore, it was the magic that Luoluo used at that time. A seemingly simple sentence really stabilized the berserk magic outfit. Aika put on her clothes as she considered the problems that had piled up hours ago. There was a polite knock on the door, and Aika had already put on her clothes. "Come in, I'm awake." He turned his back to the door and buttoned his coat. The windows were left open all night, and the air in the room did not feel turbid. When he turned around, Luoluo and Wei 11 had already opened the door and walked in. They didn't look sleepy. "Has anyone else woken up too?" "Sister Ling should have woken up, but she has been hiding in the room and refused to come out." Luoluo smiled bitterly and explained the situation just now. "When I sent Ling, who had fainted, back to her room last night, I didn't lock her door. But after Luoluo woke up this morning, he wanted to see Ling's condition, but the door was already locked. No answer when you knock on the door. If there was no response, I wouldn't be as calm as I am now." Luoluo's face relaxed a little. "Sister Ling has woken up, she just said she wanted to be alone for a while." "I'm sorry, don't worry about me now, I'm fine, I'll come out on my own later." "Have you ever asked her if she will continue to run away?" "Well, I didn't ask. There should be no need to ask like this." Aika only knew that cutting off Ling's consciousness would separate her from the light flame sword, but she still didn't know whether it was her own consciousness or that of the light flame sword that was in her body. "If it's the light flame sword, I always feel like she might be able to do something like this." Aika didn't know whether her current smile was out of helplessness or relief. "There should be no problem, haha. By the way, Luoluo, you. Forget it, let's talk about it later." Aika suppressed his curiosity to know what the power Lolo used last night, and stopped mid-sentence. "If it's my matter, it probably has something to do with Orchid Heart." Luoluo held up the sapphire necklace she wore around her neck. Now it looked like just an ordinary necklace that could be bought anywhere in the commercial street. "Is Orchid Heart the same as the light flame sword?" "I don't know, but at that time, I heard the voice of Orchid Heart." Brother Aika, Luoluo." Wei 11 intervened between the two of them. "Sister Ling came out of the room. When we went after Sister Ling, Xiao 11 deployed the same barrier in her room that was used to protect the mansion. It should be considered a smaller version." Luoluo wondered whether the statement was accurate. "Thank you, Wei 11. Aika walked up to Wei 11 and squatted down in front of her. "Thank you for always believing that we can bring her back. I just do what I can do first, and I also believe in family." With Aika caressing her little head, Wei 11 twisted her body to hide her shyness. "I'm going to check on Ling." Aika stood up and was about to walk out of the house when the person he was looking for appeared in the corridor. "Ah!" Ling, who was hesitating whether to enter the house, happened to meet Aika, and she turned around and prepared to go back along the original road. "Ling," Aika's voice reached Ling's side faster than her body, and she stopped. "This time, I didn't admit the wrong person, right?" "What do you think?" Ling held her arms and turned her back to Aika, asking him this question. Her clothes, hair accessories, appearance and voice were all the same as yesterday, but Ika had no reason to believe that the person standing in front of her now was Ling herself. However, Ika didn't know how to explain this feeling to Ling in words. Unknowingly, the people who asked and answered were switched. Why? Ling didn't get Ika's answer for a long time, so she could only sigh loudly, as if she wanted Ika to hear it on purpose. How could I fall in love with such a person? But the whisper that followed would not reach Ika's ears. Ling's long hair drew a golden arc in mid-air, and she finally turned to face Ika. If you believe me, then I am Ling. Well, I believe you. Why are Luoluo and Wei 11 standing so far away? Ika turned around and realized that the two people had not followed, but were just watching from a distance at the door of the room. Maybe you don't want to disturb us. By the way, your name for Wei 11 has changed back. Ah, that's... Ling tilted her head in embarrassment. That's what the light flame sword made on its own. When the light flame sword came out, do you also know what happened? My consciousness only became clear at the end. I don't know what happened before. But after I woke up, all the memories of the light flame sword flooded into my mind. This feeling. Ika did remember that before the magic power went wild, the light flame sword said that Ling had woken up, which turned out to mean that her consciousness had awakened. The reason why Ling's consciousness awakened was probably because of that sentence. I didn't make up those words, they were all the child's thoughts. I just said them on her behalf. If you make her suffer so much, then it may be easier for her to go to August than to stay with you. Then Guanjianjian said that Ling denied her. No, Ling shouted, interrupting Ika's thinking. Her cheeks were flushed, but she still tried her best to deny it. What the light flame sword said at that time was not me. No, I want to say. Ling became more and more anxious because she couldn't express what she wanted to tell Ika, or she couldn't express it to Ika. It's easier to go to August by and stay at home. I never thought about it once. Ling lost her momentum. She was originally preparing to explain this matter to Ika, but the scene she simulated in her mind was not as unspeakable as it is now. But when he said this in front of Ika, Ling suddenly felt that this statement seemed to mean that he could no longer leave his side. Of course, Ika didn't think so when he heard this sentence. He would simply understand that she and the light flame sword had different ideas from the literal meaning. Ling didn't realize that she had already admitted this fact in her heart when she had a deeper understanding of her words. No, it should be said to be the light flame sword. Do you also know what she did before this? Ika tentatively confirmed it. He wanted to know whether the request for dating made by Guanjianjian in place of Ling at that time was also Guanjianjian's own initiative. Originally he was going to pose this question straight to the point, but when he was about to ask the question, he anticipated the embarrassing scene later, so the question took a detour in the literal sense. Ling still lowered his head and had no obvious reaction when he heard Ika's question. Then I probably don't know, Ika thought. According to Ika's understanding of Ling, the first thing she needs to deny is that sentence. On this issue, she will clearly draw a clear line with herself. I can't say that I'm not disappointed at all, but I really don't want to think about this issue now. Thinking about it this way, Ika felt that her attitude really helped her feel more relaxed. It doesn't matter if you don't remember, it's just some trivial things. No. Ling suddenly raised his head, but when he caught Ika's sight, he just uttered two words with unclear meaning and there was no follow-up. Professor Liuyan and Kokina happened to walk out of the room at this time. They still slept together last night. Although Wei 11 carefully opened and closed the door when leaving the room, they were completely sleepless at that time. So you are all here. Liuyan looked around and saw Luoluo and Wei 11 watching from a distance, and then looked at Ika and Ling who were talking a short distance away. She cleared her throat. Is it disturbing you? It doesn't matter, Ling and I have finished talking. Ika quickly dismissed Liuyan and Professor Kokina's concerns, without noticing Ling who obviously had something else to say. Then everyone is here. Let's talk about what happened last night at the dinner table later. Where's brother Shun? After we came back last night, he was called away by the Imperial City Defense Bureau. Before leaving, he said that he would help us fool him. After all, tire tracks and other things would be clues, and we couldn't care about that much at the time. To put it this way, Shun didn't sleep all night last night and is still working now. This was all to help everyone tide over the difficulties, and Ika felt that no amount of words of thanks would be enough to compensate him. No electronic records are left. This can at least reduce his workload. With the help of Professor Coconut, it was a blessing that no surveillance video that could become key evidence was left behind. Ika thought of the foreign aid that Professor Coconut had called. He now wanted to know where the mysterious voice came from, but it was inappropriate for everyone to stand in the corridor, so he kept the question in his mind for the time being. Xiao 11 and I are going to prepare breakfast. Luo and Wei 11, who were standing far in front of the door, saw that the topic had come to an end, so they came over and went downstairs with Professor Lu Yin and Coconut. Aren't you going now? Ika turned to look at Ling, who did not leave with everyone, and she shook her head. You go down first, I have something to do and need to go back to the room. After she finished speaking, she walked into her room with a slightly tired pace, and the door was gently closed. Ika didn't think too much, or deliberately didn't think about it, and turned around and left the second floor. Ling returned to the room and sat on the edge of the bed doing nothing. She had nothing to do and needed to come back here. It's not a trivial matter at all. She hugged her knees and sat on the bed. She didn't want others to see her like this. Showing it here was the maximum tolerance Ling had for herself. After leaving the room, she will return to her original coolness. The Ling who still only stayed by his side as a family member without confessing or even asking for a relationship. End La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 232. In other words, the sound of the light flame sword has disappeared. The first issue to discuss is the Sword of Light and Flames with rampant magic power. Her appearance was too sudden and she was the most mysterious existence. Well, no matter how much I call her in my heart, she doesn't respond to me. Can the magic equipment still be used? Okay. Ling summoned a nearly 2-meter-long golden sword, and the golden light from the blade was still flowing slowly. If that can be called consciousness, then the light flame sword should be in a sleeping state right now, right? Professor Coconut took the light flame sword from Ling's hand and used analytical magic to check the current status of the light flame sword. All values were within the range of normal magic equipment. Her analytical magic can only be used against ordinary magic tools. She believed that magic equipment should have its own unique numerical representation, so her research direction at Shimizuki Academy turned to the improvement of analytical magic, and Ika often became her experimental subject. Sister Ling, have you ever heard the sound of the light flame sword? Lolo seemed concerned about this issue. The first time I heard it, I was probably exploring the labyrinth of the Moonflower Festival. I don't know if it was her, but I think she was. May's exploration, that time with my classmate Brad Rossi. Wei 11 recalled the unknown magic that Ling suddenly used at that time. Well, it was that time. At that time, a voice appeared in my mind, and then I grasped everything about the light flame sword in an instant. This feeling is not easy to express. That's how it feels. Luoluo nodded empathetically. Luoluo, did you also hear the voice of Orchid Heart? Well. Facing Wei 11's inquiry, she nodded slightly. It's just like Sister Ling now, I can't hear her voice. Absolute royal power. Ika murmured the term Luoluo shouted at that time, is that the ability of Orchid Heart? He looked at Luoluo, but Luoluo didn't answer immediately. It wasn't until a few seconds passed that she spoke softly. I have no idea. There was no confidence in her voice at all, as if she was just making it up on the fly, and she didn't even know the correct answer. Yet, Ika closed his mouth. He saw that Luoluo didn't want to answer the question. No matter what the abilities of Orchid Heart are, Luoluo will always be Luoluo. As long as you know this, it is enough. After knowing that both Ling and Luoluo had recovered, Ika looked at Professor Kokina. Huh, Professor Kokina noticed Ika looking at her. She knew what Ika's question was, so she prepared the answer. If you want to know who the person reminded you at the end is, I may not be able to do anything about it. Answer you. Well. The question was answered in advance before it was even asked, and Ika could only smile bitterly. Is he a very special person? Since he can grasp the movements of the Imperial City Defense Bureau, the opponent may be an insider of the Imperial City Defense Bureau. Ika could only think of this, but she didn't expect that he turned out to be a big shot whose identity cannot be known. It's actually not as complicated as you think. Did she come to see you again after that? No. I see, if she has that kind of idea, she will probably come to you. I don't have a way to contact her through PDA. It's just a one-sided contact. If you want to know the other party's true face, you can only wait for her to take the initiative to contact you. That's what Professor Kokina meant. So, do you know the ability of the light flame sword now? Ika's question came to an end, and then came the question Liuyan was more concerned about. There are very few records of the Heinz family in existing history, and the family's magic equipment is even rarer. The ability of the light flame sword has always been unclear. Because Ling herself has certain attainments in swordsmanship, she uses the light flame sword directly as a knife most of the time. Unlike ordinary magic tools, the light flame sword has a physical blade without any external appearance. The former's entity is the embodiment of magic power, and the physical part only has an external appearance. This is the biggest difference between the light flame sword and the former. In terms of ability, Ling has only used the golden particles from the broken blade, and the golden particles as sharp as the blade are also extremely powerful weapons. But in the battle with Ika and Liuyan, the light flame sword showed abilities that were very different from Ling. Although it is a basic magic circle that is constructed, the effect of the magic far exceeds that of basic magic. The fire magic, light magic, and dark magic used at that time were already within the scope of high-level elemental magic. Liuyan is not only able to use ice magic. Like Wei 11, she is an elementalist who has been crowned the strongest in the Holy See. It's just that she prefers ice magic. I'm not very sure. I just said that if you use the light flame sword to construct a magic formula, you can use very powerful magic of the same attribute. Ling was also very vague about the concept. She knew that the light flame sword had such an ability, but she could only describe the effects she saw on the surface. Does that mean the principle is not clear? Liuyan also knew that his question was too forced. It is precisely because all magic is called supernatural power because even if the principle of its effect is known, its source cannot be understood no matter how much research is done. Can magic equipment speak like the light flame sword and Orchid Heart? As soon as Wei 11 raised this question, everyone's eyes moved to Ika. After all, apart from the two of them, only Ika possesses magic equipment. I have never heard the voice of Fiery Eyes. I'm sorry that everyone's expectations were in vain. Ika finally managed to hold back such a sentence. I knew it would be like this. Ling spread his hands as if he had expected it. I think the sound of the magic suit is also a product of magic power, and your perception of magic power is very low. I know that. The Fiery Eyes should be a boy, right? Boys, Ika was stunned for a moment. Is there any gender difference in magic costumes? I don't know. The light flame sword has a girl's voice. Where is Orchid Heart? Well, she also has a girl's voice. Ling and Luoluo confirmed the answer and then looked at Ika. Fire Eyes, judging from the name, it looks very boyish. If that's the case, doesn't the light flame sword also feel the same way? Ika immediately retorted. But he had an inexplicable feeling. Although the light flame sword was a sharp sword, his subconscious had accepted the fact that she was a girl. When did you come into contact with the light flame sword? Ika couldn't remember anything. Orchid Heart has a very girly feel. Way 11 also became interested in this topic. As a result, the rest of the morning was spent discussing whether Ika's magic costume was a boy or a girl. Shun contacted Lu Yin after breakfast and told everyone that he had successfully deceived the people from the Imperial City Defense Bureau. Ika suddenly thought that Shun, a capable high-level coder, had become a spy for everyone, and he couldn't help laughing. During breakfast time, everyone at Shimizuki Academy had decided to head to the airport in the morning, preparing to return to Shimizuki Academy. "Won't you stay here a little longer?" Lu Yin seemed a little reluctant to leave, but now he returned to Shimizuki Academy to avoid more trouble. Regardless of whether the Imperial City Defense Bureau would notice the three people fighting in the suburbs, Augustus continued to pay attention to everyone. When Ika and Liu Yin had private contact with Lanming and Xiaoluo, Augustus must have also learned the news. Just because everyone is under the protection of the Holy See, they feel a little more at ease. He didn't want to burden Liu Yin anymore because of his own reasons. "If you have time, you can come to the neutral area with us." Although this may be because he is taking advantage of the convenience provided by Shimizuki Academy, Ika feels that if he can use the opportunity to entertain Liu Yin, it can be a little reward. "My vacation ends tomorrow. The results of the public investigation by the Holy See and the nobles seem to have been concluded, and the next time may become busy." Liu Yin politely declined Ika's invitation. Ika and she secretly investigated the industrial area in the northwest district of the imperial capital and learned that the space that caused Lolo to lose his memory was located in the underground factory in the industrial area. The northwest area of the imperial capital is under the jurisdiction of the Bis Empire, so such things are inseparable from the empire. Ika hadn't told Lolo the truth yet. He just told Lu Yin everything he knew, feeling a little more comfortable. Is it appropriate to let Lolo know this kind of thing now? Ika was undecided, so she hadn't let her know until now. Lolo regained her memory. This was already a happy ending. It was the best choice not to add to her troubles. "Xiaoan, if you can come to Shiyu Academy to see me, I will be very happy." Wei 11 didn't know if it was to help Ika convince Liu Yin that she made a willful request to her for the first time. "If you have time." Liu Yin held Wei 11's hand lovingly, "but there are many ways to connect us." If Liu Yin has nothing urgent to do, the two of them will contact each other using PDA every night. However, the mood that the signal can convey is very limited, which is an irreparable regret. Wei 11 did not show any regret. She had done enough to prevent Lu Yin from worrying about herself. Liu Yin and Professor Coconut stayed in the restaurant to clean up the tableware together. Because Professor Coconut only brought a personal terminal and the clothes were borrowed directly from Liu Yin, there was no need to spend time cleaning up. The other four people went back to their rooms to pack their luggage, which was actually not a lot of luggage. Originally, everyone was only planning to stay here for a short time, but they didn't expect that a week would pass like this. The plan couldn't keep up with the changes, because the time recently was filled with all kinds of sudden increases in things, and Ika felt like she hadn't taken a good breath yet. After packing up all his things, he happened to meet Professor Coconut going upstairs in the stairwell. "Where's Liu Yin?" Liu Yin, who was originally with her, chose not to be by her side. "In the courtyard." "What's wrong? Do you want to go find her?" No, Ika originally thought like this. He just went downstairs to find something, but after Professor Coconut asked, he suddenly changed his mind. "Well, I'll go find her." There was no purpose, I just suddenly wanted to talk to her alone. "Is my personal terminal in your room?" "I saw it when I was packing just now." "I'll put it in my luggage later." "I need to use it now, can I get it from your room?" Well, the room is unlocked. After Ika and Professor Kokina separated, they came to the first floor and looked around the hall of the mansion. It seemed a little empty. When he first met Liuyan, the relationship between the two parties was still very tense. The development of a relationship like this would have been completely unimaginable in the past. This is an unpredictable change in life. There are many more changes like this, and the relationship with family members is also constantly changing. Can a permanent relationship exist? Ika wants to believe that it exists, so that life seems easy. Maybe some people will envy the relationships around them. If they are just a bystander, they will also envy this kind of life that looks like the protagonist. But when all these things are pressing on me, I will inadvertently laugh at myself for how naive I used to be. From the moment I left my parents, my surroundings began to change, and if I stayed in the village of my birth, I might never be able to experience it. Thinking about it this way, his parents' request to take Lugo away from home may indeed be out of deep considerations. Don't you need to help them pack their luggage? When Ika was thinking about the distant past, she walked into the courtyard unknowingly. Liuyan was squatting by the flower bed when she heard footsteps behind her. She stood up and turned around, pulling Ika back from her endless thoughts. Ah, you don't need my help with that kind of thing. To be precise, Ika didn't even know what they had in their bags. Oh. Liuyan responded briefly. After the simple greetings, there was no conversation between the two. Liuyan didn't know what she was looking at. She just stood facing the blooming flower bed. When Ika came here for the first time, it was also a season like this, and the flowers were still in full bloom. What's matter? No, I just happened to have some free time. That's it? There was another moment of silence. Ika and she were facing the same scenery, thinking about different things. I said. Have you ever thought about leaving the Holy See? Why do you ask? The Pope said that Way 11 cannot be allowed to return to the Holy See now. I see. That's why I thought. Thank you, you no longer have to worry about my affairs. Even if Xiao 11 is not around, it is enough to be able to hear her voice. Isn't that the case, Liuyan? This isn't enough, is it? Enough. Liuyan repeated her answer categorically, but Ika had no way of knowing what kind of expression she had when answering her question. Has your answer at that time changed now? Liuyan raised her head slightly. She didn't know what Ika meant by that time. Have you found what you really want to do now? Ika raised this question to Liuyan again. At the beginning of everyone's enrollment, in order for Liuyan to treat the relationship between her and Way 11 correctly, Ika confirmed the answer to her. Even now, do you not consider anything except Way 11's happiness? I have no idea. After a long silence, Liuyan only gave Ika this inexpressible answer. But Ika smiled when she heard the answer. Really? The answer is different from that time. It's obviously the same. It's different. You don't look as tight now. Is it because you and Way 11 finally had a frank exchange of mind and body that you let go of the biggest worry in your heart? Ika doesn't know if this is the reason, but the result is gratifying. You still like to use your own opinions to guess other people's thoughts. Obviously it is absolutely impossible to understand. Yeah, I can't understand it. Then you still. That's why I came to ask you. You know your thoughts very well. Liuyan's words were stuck in his throat. After Ika said this, she began to think, did she really know what she was thinking? Searching for answers in the inner ocean, what you get in the end is still I don't know. I don't want to think about troublesome things. If I leave everything to him, it might be a lot easier. Liuyan thinks that she has this kind of use-like idea of Ika. Take care of Way 11 when she needs it, take on the responsibility of sister, and then let Ika take on the responsibility of brother. Such days seem to only exist in fantasy. However, he had no reason to stand in the same position as Wei 11, and there was a reason to stay in the Holy See. This was probably the reason why he had never thought of leaving the Holy See and looking for his own life. Liu Yan finally turned around and looked at Aika. She slightly raised the corners of her mouth, showing a heartfelt smile. Unfortunately, you guessed wrong this time. She rejected Aika mercilessly. What's wrong? My thoughts won't be clear unless someone helps me confirm them. I don't know if this is the case for other people, at least I still haven't gotten the answer yet. If we could spend more time together, we might be able to find the answer. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 233. After everyone was ready, Shun finished the work of the Imperial City Defense Bureau and drove back to the mansion. The severely overloaded locomotive took everyone to the airport. There was no tear-jerking farewell scene because it was only a short separation. Have Brother Ika said goodbye to Xiaoun. In the smoothly flying airship, Wei 11, who was sitting next to Ika just like before, asked quietly. Well, I chatted with her for a while in the courtyard. I am also very grateful to Brother Ika. Even if I am not in the Holy See now, I still have a place where I can go back. It would be better if Liu Yan was here too. That may be difficult. Wei 11 pretended to be strong and smiled, but as Xiaoun said, as long as we can connect together, no matter how far apart we are, we can still communicate. No, this is not a smile pretending to be strong. Wei 11 is already strong enough, she can already support everyone's sky inadvertently. That would be great. Ika gained strength from her words. What she did was not completely meaningless, at least she could see the results in them. Perhaps it is arrogant to attribute all these results to themselves, after all, it is they who decide how to do it. But Ika felt that there was nothing wrong with being so arrogant once in a while. The atmosphere there is so good. Yes, brother is still the same. I can't interrupt at all. Is this also the effect of Xioxy's barrier? Ling looked at the two of them sideways with a cold tone. Luoluo seemed to be very disappointed with Ika's old behavior, while Professor Kokina was amused and heckled from the side. No. I won't use this kind of barrier. She became the object of everyone's attention again, and Wei 11 immediately coyly distanced herself from Ika, both physically and mentally. Suddenly being dodged by Wei 11, Ika was slightly injured. Ling, don't always say unnecessary words. He pointed the finger at Ling, who had caused the topic. What I said is true. Don't say it even if it's the truth. Ling has completely returned to her original appearance, and Ika can't see from Ling's attitude the feelings she mentioned about her existence with the light flame sword. Brother, hasn't that voice on the PDA contacted you yet? PDA has been silent since last night until everyone left the imperial capital. Maybe we won't contact you again after this. Although she didn't know who that person was, she did help everyone, and Ika could only thank her in her heart. It takes at least half a day to travel from the imperial capital East Airport to the neutral area. It was now approaching noon, and it should already be late at night by the time the airship arrived in the neutral area. The magic train should no longer be operating at that time. Fortunately, I contacted Instructor Letica before returning, and she would drive to pick everyone up back to Frost Moon Academy. Ika didn't know when her consciousness started to slip. When she opened her eyes again, the lights on the airship were already lit. Fell asleep. Above the clouds, Ika could see the out-of-reach bright full moon from her window. He looked out the window for a moment, then gently drew the curtains down. The girls around her also fell into sleep like Ika. Professor Ling and Kokina, who were sitting next to Luoluo, rested their heads on her shoulders. Wei 11, who was next to Ika, put her hands on the back of his hands at some point. Everyone who has been up all night can finally sleep peacefully. Well. Ling's fingers hanging on the armrest suddenly moved, and then she slowly opened her sleepy eyes. Are you awake? Hearing Ika's voice, Ling, who originally looked lazy, suddenly opened his eyes wide. What a great response. When did you wake up? When, it was just now. Ika didn't know why Ling suddenly panicked. My sleeping appearance is very bad. I don't have such a feeling, and it's not the first time I've seen you look like you while sleeping. Have you seen it so many times? I've seen it many times before when I was taking care of you. Scared me. After hearing Ika's answer, Ling finally breathed a sigh of relief. Do you care about this kind of thing? Ika thought she wouldn't care about her sleeping face being seen. After all, she had already seen things even more incredible than her sleeping face. Of course I will care. I don't want to be laughed at by you. Although she seemed a little excited, she still paid attention to controlling the volume so as not to wake up everyone who was sleeping. It will be there soon. Ika looked at the time on the PDA and saw that there was only 1 hour left before the scheduled arrival time. Ling responded softly, and she seemed to be ready to wait until the airship entered the port like Ika. Is your health okay? You've asked this question back and forth several times, right? Don't you have anything else to say to me? Ling still had that cold attitude, as if the panic just now was just an act. I really care about your body. There should be no wounds or anything left. Abnormal. I won't show it to you if there is no wound left. I never said anything like that. At that time, I was hiding under the quilt and watching so excitedly, and I was still breathing hot. It was out of necessity, and I didn't pant like a pervert like you said. Recalling the morning after sleeping with Ling in the past dream, Ika and Ling were both very embarrassed, but they still used this topic to tease each other. Ika, actually I am the light flame sword now. Do not make jokes. I was serious. Ika was speechless. He could not forget the sentence, even though it was said by the light flame sword through Ling's body. Ling looked at Ika, who was speechless, and showed a lonely smile. If you put it this way, can you still tell who is me? Her voice was quickly drowned out by the noise of other passengers in the airship, but it was deeply engraved in Ika's heart. This is a problem that cannot be avoided, and Ika knows this clearly. Even if various reasons can be found for delaying her confession, this issue already involves the meaning of her existence here. Ling himself may not have this idea, but Ika is just overthinking it. Even so, he must answer it. Sorry, I probably can't do that. Lying also needs a reason, but Ika can't even find a reason. A lame lie can't even be called a laughing stock. Really? Ling lowered her eyes, as if she was just saying this to herself. Of course, I can't even tell the difference. Which consciousness is the real Ling? Is I really Ling when I can't even understand my own thoughts? Or is it that the light flame sword that can express its sincerity without hesitation can be called the real Ling? My heart felt a twinge. Ling couldn't cheer up like usual and deliberately pretended to be strong. That kind of show-off would only make herself more embarrassed in front of Ika. All he could do was avoid his sight. In this way, you don't have to know his expression or what he is thinking clearly, and you can more or less relax and take a breath. If someone can perfectly disguise everything about Ling, I think there is only one person in this world, and that is Ling herself. Apart from that, there is absolutely no way anyone else can replace her. Just based on what you just said, I have no way to judge. But there is only one person I know, Ling, and I remember everything about her. If someone wants to pretend to be her, first, they should get my recognition. Ika didn't know if his words were conveyed to Ling. They sounded incoherent. He just said the reasons that came to his mind. He just wanted to tell Ling that no matter how she disguised herself, She was who she was and she was irreplaceable. If it weren't for the fact that everyone else was asleep, Aika wouldn't be able to say this. Then, now, do I need your recognition? Ling, who finally met Aika's eyes, confirmed to him like this. Her expression gave no clue what she was thinking. Well, what I mean by admit is actually the feeling of yes means it, no means no. It's not something particularly formal. How to express it, it's just. The serious attitude made Aika, who was already incoherent, even more confused. Seeing him desperately trying to explain, his iceberg-like expression suddenly melted, and he couldn't help but laugh out loud. Sure enough, this looks more like you. Suddenly he started to talk nonsense. I thought you took the wrong medicine. Obviously you asked me first. I just wanted to see your reaction, and didn't you already recognize it at that time? That time. When Aika pointed out that Ling's body contained the consciousness of the Light Flame Sword, the Light Flame Sword's ability had not yet gone wild. Does she know what happened at that time? To what time does her memory go back? Aika suddenly couldn't tell clearly. It was obviously something that didn't need to be cared about so much, and Ling himself never mentioned it again, but Aika still cared about it very much. At that time, he had escaped her questions, but now he wanted to get confirmation from her. Was he really a scumbag? Brother, can you explain to us? The three sleeping people woke up without knowing when, and Luoluo and Wei 11's sights dropped below zero, while Professor Kokina watched the excitement indifferently. Aika didn't know why she was treated so coldly by them. If it was what she just said to Ling, it shouldn't be. Then Aika remembered Ling's casual joke. When did my brother hide under the quilt and gasp for breath while looking at Sister Ling's body? Brother Aika, even if we are family members. The cold gazes of Luoluo and Wei 11 made Aika not even know what to say in defense. That's just what Ling said casually. But brother just admitted it, right? I admitted it? No, it was an accident. Back in the past, right, Ling, you know that, right? No longer knowing how to express herself to convince them, Aika could only seek help from another client. There is no credibility in what a boy says at this time, and the effect would be much better if Ling Ye helped to explain. Guilty, death penalty. Not only did Ling not help explain, but he went even further to decide Aika's punishment. I always believed in brother Aika. I didn't expect that the brother I always believed in would be such a person. From contempt to pity, Aika's social status seems to be decreasing step by step. It's really hard work. Doesn't Professor Kokina believe me too? It seems that you can't be allowed in and out of my research room at will in the future, if you can survive after going back. So, what are your preparations? Until the airship entered the airport in a neutral area, Aika had been receiving inhuman treatment in the low pressure. Actually, Xiao 11 and I both believe in my brother, but, we have definitely seen it, right? Luoluo walked beside Aika, who was carrying everyone's luggage, and finally said that it was just a little joke. This fact has been exposed, and there is no point in hiding it, so Aika simply admitted it. He just mistakenly thought that a thief entered the room at dawn, so it turned into that kind of accident. There's nothing we can do about it. If there is a thief, you can't close your eyes. Although the reason was a bit far-fetched, kind-hearted Luoluo and Wei 11 still chose to forgive him. But after knowing that the other person is not a thief but Ling, can't we avoid the accident just by closing our eyes? After listening to Aika's statement, Professor Kokina suddenly brought up the blind spots of Luoluo and Wei 11. Aika looked at Professor Kokina without tears. She just made a triumphant gesture towards Aika. Aika had no idea what this person wanted to do. Yes, why does my brother keep staring at him even though he knows that he is not a thief but Sister Ling? The fire that was finally extinguished was rekindled by Professor Kokina, and Lolo once again captured Aika to investigate. Sure enough, it cannot be forgiven. Of course, Wei 11 did not simply forgive him, but this was just a joke. At the exit of the airport, Instructor Letica was already waiting here, but she was not the driver. The driver was Instructor Wilbur from the Assault Division. After unloading all the luggage from the body and putting it into the trunk, Aika could finally move her sore arms and waist. It seems that the tutors don't know what happened to Ling. Principal Felice should only let everyone in the student union know the situation. You haven't come back for such a long time, Letica is very worried. With his hands on the steering wheel, Teacher Wilbur jokingly revealed Teacher Letica's mood this week. Of course I will be worried. Principal Phyllis just told me not to worry. This kind of statement is what I need to worry about the most. Although Instructor Letica was sitting in the passenger seat and could not see her expression, we could tell from her panicked voice that she must be very embarrassed. Teacher Letica, Tutor Wilbur, I'm sorry, it was delayed for such a long time because of me. The two tutors who came to pick him up both had a close relationship with Ling, so she took the lead in expressing her apology on everyone's behalf. It's nothing. As long as she is back intact now, Letica will be relieved. Stop stressing about that matter. Don't move, Letica. It's very dangerous. Instructor Wilbur, who was beaten by Instructor Letica, turned the steering wheel randomly, and the whole car turned left and right in the middle of the road. If it were not late at night, the traffic accident would have become a fait accompli. By the way, classmate Lululo, do you remember? After Teacher Letica got tired, she remembered that this issue had not been confirmed yet. In order to get the twin class to cooperate with the amnesiac Lolo, Instructor Letica and her classmates all knew about the fact that she had amnesia. Yes, I have completely remembered it. I caused a lot of trouble to you and your classmates during that time. I'm really sorry. In this case, classes can be resumed as normal tomorrow, right? Where are classmates Aika and Wei 11? Well, there's no problem at all. It doesn't matter to me. It's great. My classmates can rest assured. Teacher Letica who said this is very admirable. Although she has only been a tutor for a year, she is undoubtedly a dedicated tutor and has given a lot of help to Aika and the others who have been transfer students for half a year. Instructor Wilbur stepped on the accelerator and drove from the airport into Shimizuki Academy with the unique sense of speed of the assault class. Aika carried the large and small bags into the administrator's cabin and put them down at the entrance. Feeling the familiar scenery and air, the next step is the long-missed school life. Brother, thank you for your hard work. Thank you for your hard work. I'll use the bathroom last and go back to the room first. I also. Xiao 11, come in with me. It's getting late now. It's true, it's getting late. Brother, come and call me after you're done. Well, I won't be using it for long. You don't need too many words to know what each other wants to express. This is the feeling of home. I'm back. This must be the common aspiration of everyone. Aika wanted to spend even a moment of peace with them. And La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 234. On the second day after returning to the classroom, everyone's attention was indeed attracted. Fortunately, Teacher Letica came to the classroom with the four of them, so they were not surrounded. But what is supposed to come will always come. During the break, the four people sitting together were immediately surrounded by the classmates. The circle of less than 20 people did not even leave a way out. As the squad leader, Chiuke did not play the role of maintaining order at all. Instead, he was the most excited person. Has Luoluo's memory recovered? Aika must have done such and such things during her time in the imperial capital, absolutely right. Although Chiuke's guess was correct to a certain extent, it was certainly impossible for Aika to admit that she had done such and such things in front of the whole class. While constantly using questionable excuses to evade, Luoluo helped Aika out of trouble in time. Without Sister Ling's help, my memory might not have been restored. When the light flame sword awakened, the magic shock generated forced Orchid Heart to lift Lugo Lugo's memory seal. This is what Lugo Lugo told everyone when he was at Lu Yin's mansion. Therefore, the person who helped her should be the light flame sword, to be precise. These facts that are inconvenient for others to know can only be hidden in everyone's hearts. Sister Ling, thank you for your hard work. No. Actually, I didn't really do anything. Well, since Oni-sama said so, it must be like this. No matter how Ling explains it, Zixi seems to firmly believe that Lugo Lugo's ability to recover his memory is a miracle created by Ling. Abby seemed to have endured not contacting Wei 11 during this period. They felt that if something urgent happened, their interruption would not only not be of help, but might become a burden. There is no such thing. If I can receive your concern, I will be very happy, but I am also very happy now. Although Wei 11 did not receive a text message from her friend in the end because of their different views on the incident, there is no need to regret no matter which starting point was used. Xiao 11 must have worked hard. Ika, didn't you have any effect this time? Carlo squeezed next to Ika, patted him on the shoulder and joked. Roughly the same. The job of taking care of Ling was left to Lugo Lugo and Wei 11. Lugo Lugo's memory recovery was also due to the influence of the light flame sword. It seemed that he really had no effect, as Carlo said. Elder brother. Lugo Lugo seemed to hear the conversation between herself and Carlo. She watched Ika hesitate to speak, and then laughed softly. It's nothing, this is how I look like my brother. Ika remembers saying this on the airship. What does this sentence mean? What do they really look like in their eyes? Ika didn't know that he and Ling were thinking about the same problem. The noisy little circle lasted until the beginning of the second class before dispersing. The four people who tried hard to respond to everyone finally breathed a sigh of relief. During lunchtime, Tailua Senpai came to the lower grade twin class classroom. She looked around the classroom by the door and immediately found the targets who were putting 4 desks together. Under the surprised gazes of other students, Senior Taruya slightly expressed her intention to disturb her and walked straight into the classroom. As the leader of the discipline team and the vice president of the student union, Tailua Senpai is as popular as Chiuke in another sense. Tailua Senpai. The first person to notice that Senior Taruya was approaching was Ling, and she quickly stood up from her seat. Can I sit here? Taruya Senpai gestured to the lunch box in her hand. She usually went to Moonbath with her friends in the same grade and prepared a rare lunch today. Ling moved her seat to the side, and Senior Taruya sat next to her. Everyone in the student union already knew the fact that Ling was injured, but Chiuke didn't say it in front of the whole class because of various considerations. It was deliberately chosen when most of the students were not in the classroom. Everyone thought that Taruya Senpai was here for that matter. Has the wound healed? As expected, this issue is what Tailua Senpai is most concerned about. Well, Tailua Senpai, thank you for the text message you sent at that time. Senior Taruya sent a text message to Lugo Lugo, and Lugo Lugo also read it to Ling after she woke up. After all, during your absence, the atmosphere in the discipline team was a bit restless. It's really causing trouble. Ling smiled bitterly and apologized. Does Ling act like he's aloof in the Fengji group? Ika was more concerned about another point in Tailua Senpai's words. Everyone only knows that the activities of the discipline team are to maintain order in Chiyu Academy, a student organization similar to the student union. When Ling first joined the discipline team, because the team leader was Senior Taruya, the misunderstanding between the two had not been resolved at that time, so Ling was resistant to this matter. But in the end, in order to accept the challenge of Senior Taruya, Ling decided to become a member of the discipline team, and inevitably spent half a year with Senior Taruya. At the beginning of the winter vacation of the first semester, Ling was unilaterally invited by Senior Taruya, and finally the relationship was restored to the normal relationship between seniors and seniors. What do you mean by arrogant? Hearing Ika's description of herself, Ling couldn't help but burst into laughter. Is this how you view me? Sorry, the statement is not accurate. Ika quickly smiled and comforted the excited Ling. Your absence seems to have a great impact on the Fengji group, so I was wondering if you would also learn from Teruya. Just like a sister. Teruya-senpai and I are completely different. After Ika defended himself, Ling finally understood his unclear meaning, and the aggrieved atmosphere disappeared. About the same, however, Senior Tilyuya, who was also sitting together, gave a different answer. Ling's thinking is very flexible and his organizational skills are very strong. His swordsmanship is also above the average level of the discipline group. Such a talent, even the student council would like it. I'm not that kind of person. Ling may not really see herself the way Teruya-senpai does. Teruya-senpai's impression of her is actually not much different from everyone's impression of her. But the only difference is that as a family member, everyone understands the depths of Ling better than Teruya-senpai. Ling, who appears to be perfect on the outside, is actually just a girl who is delicate on the inside but good at showing off her strength. It's not that she likes showing off her strength, but that she's good at showing off her strength. So it wasn't until they lived together for such a long time that Ika, who was closest to her, saw the true face behind Ling's mask. In the discipline team, Ling has never made any willful noises, right? You have never shed tears, right? Because her disguise was so perfect that it was unreal, Ika, who had been with her day and night, could detect it. There are currently no first-year students in the discipline team, and this year's recruitment should begin soon. This means that Ling immediately realized the meaning of Teruya-senpai's words, and Teruya-senpai nodded. Well, the third-year students are about to retire. This is what I want to tell you here today. Why am I the only one? I want you to take my place. Become the leader of the discipline group. You can definitely do it. This is also the common hope of everyone in the discipline group. Please wait a minute, I have no idea. In order to dispel everyone's worries about what you are doing in the imperial capital during this period, I took it upon myself to make this matter a topic. Teruya-senpai smiled as if she had succeeded in mischief. But there is no way I can do what Teruya-senpai did. No one could do it at the beginning. In the 6 months since you didn't join me, I just took over this position from a friend and tried to do it. I failed countless times, but in the end I persisted and reached my goal. Consider it a satisfactory step. But I told you a long time ago that I am only temporarily borrowing this position. Once someone appears who can truly stand here, I will step aside from this position. Although Senior Teruya clearly forced Ling to inherit the position of leader of the discipline team from her, placing such high hopes on her was equivalent to not giving her a chance to refuse. Take some time to think about it. There's still more than half of the lunch break left. After finishing lunch, Teruya-senpai said goodbye to everyone and left the twin classroom. But Ling basically didn't move his chopsticks. Sister Ling, when Shuke came to ask me to be the organizing committee member of the Moonflower Festival, I hesitated for a long time. But Teacher Letica said to me, I can stand in that position only because of everyone's recommendation. So you have to have confidence in yourself, so I tried to work hard. When Luoluo became the organizing committee member of the Moonflower Festival, he also placed the hope of the whole class. At that time, she did not escape, but spent time with her family in exchange for the success of the Moonflower Festival. The words coming from the mouth of Luoluo, who worked so hard, deeply touched Ling's heart. I'll think about it first. Ling no longer refused blindly, she began to try to come up with an answer that was entirely her own. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 235. In the afternoon, there are specialized subject courses, and different specialized subjects are taught in different classrooms. There are not many students in the pharmacy department, so the classroom is not crowded and the seats are basically fixed. Luoluo walked to his seat, hung his bag on the hook beside the table, and quietly waited for the bell to ring for class. When she sat down in this position, she suddenly thought of the boy who confessed to her when she lost her memory. Brad Rossi, I remember he was an aristocratic young man with this name and a Fu surname. Luoluo looked at the seat next to him. He was sitting here at that time, but now the seat is still empty. This was the first time Luoluo was confessed by the opposite sex. At that time, she was only confused because at that time she still firmly believed that Ika was her lover. But now that the relationship with Ika is clear, if Brad Roche says the same thing to himself again, how should he answer? Luoluo's heart became anxious unconsciously, and at such a time, the bell rang for class. As a result, Brad Rossi did not appear in the classroom until the end of the pharmacy course. When Wei 11 came to the classroom of the enchantment department, the seat where she usually sat was occupied by someone again. Only this time, Wei 11 no longer had to panic and look for other seats like the second time she entered the classroom. "Oh, little one, you're finally back." Wei 11 smiled and nodded gently in response to Annabelle who greeted her. "Wei 11, long time no see. Ronak said you have returned to the imperial capital. Annabelle has been helping you guard this seat." "Ronak, don't say unnecessary words." Even if Ronak didn't tell Wei 11 this, she still knew that every time Annabelle came to the classroom before her, she would sit in her seat like today. Of course Wei 11 would understand the meaning of this if she thought about it. She had always been grateful to Annabelle for being willing to help herself who was afraid to speak to others. "Thank you, I'm sorry, I left without telling you. Speaking of which, we haven't exchanged contact addresses yet, have we? Do you have a PDA with you?" With that said, Ronak took out his PDA, and then urged Wei 11 to take it out as soon as possible. "Why did you suddenly start exchanging contact addresses?" Annabelle looked very reluctant, but still slowly took out the PDA. "Don't say that. Wouldn't it make you anxious if you can't get in touch sometimes?" Ronak deliberately winked at Ainveer behind Wei 11's back, while Ainveer turned away with an impatient expression. "Then let's exchange it as insurance. Do you want to exchange?" This was the first time for Wei 11 to exchange mailing addresses with classmates outside the twin class. She was holding the PDA in both hands, looking nervous and expectant. When she first came to the classroom and saw a small group of 3 girls in front of her targeting her, Wei 11 thought this was so-called bullying. Looking back now, her face became as hot as fire. "Have you made new friends?" Wei 11 thought so in her heart. She had never considered this kind of problem before meeting Ika. She felt that people like herself would never make friends other than Liu Yin. Because he had hurt Ling, who had become a friend, he was not qualified to pursue new friends. But Ling told Wei 11 that she was not hurt by Wei 11. This sentence put an end to the long-standing misunderstanding between the two. Now Wei 11 is no longer bound by the kudzu vines, and she can bravely step outside the circle she drew. Chiuke rarely walked into the assault department classroom without stepping on the bell, so he was also exempted from the punishment that had become almost routine. "President, did anything good happen today?" Safra, who was sitting next to Zuko, asked her as her eyes followed the admiring student council president. From the moment she entered the door, Chiuke's big fluffy tail was swinging lively under her skirt. She was probably in this state all the way to the classroom. "Huh? Nothing special." Chiuke swung his ears back and forth, put down the bag in his hand, and sat down. "I just saw the president seemed very happy." "Are you happy?" Chiuke didn't seem to notice her mood. Instead, she thought for a while and then laughed innocently. "Well, she looks very happy." "Ha." Safra no longer knew how to understand Chiuke's thoughts. The door of the classroom was opened again, and teacher Wilbur walked into the classroom with the name book under his arm. She would always come to the classroom before the bell rang, and Chiuke often seemed to forget this habit of tutor Wilbur. "Classmate Chiuke, you are not late today." Instructor Wilbur naturally noticed the empty seats when he walked into the classroom in the past. Hey. I'm not complimenting you." Seeing Chiuke's embarrassed smile, tutor Wilbur sighed, walked up to the podium, and arranged the names on the podium. This was the signal for the assault course to begin, and the classroom instantly fell silent. "Before going to class, there is one thing I want to say in advance." The whole class was waiting quietly for Instructor Wilbur's speech. It had been a week since the last news was announced before class. "Come in." Following the gaze of Instructor Wilbur, the students all looked towards the door. Most of them had already guessed who was outside the door. President, could it be? "Humph, I don't know anything." Chiuke said the opposite with a confident look, and Safra could only smile bitterly. She finally understood why Chiuke was so happy today. Everything was expected, but watching her return to the classroom, everyone felt like they were finally relieved. "Sorry, I came back a little late. The sparring partner is back. The practical exercises are finally going to get exciting. Hey, can't you boys say something meaningful? I really want to put this knife in your mouth. If you stuff it in, you'll die." The whole classroom was boiling in an instant, and the arguments were filled with dangerous words from time to time, which was very characteristic of the assault department. Instructor Wilbur knocked on the podium again with the name book, and the noise gradually subsided. "That's it, Ling is back and welcomes everyone's challenges in practical exercises. Teacher Wilbur. Go ahead, isn't this nice? Practical exercises account for 2/3 of the assault course and are real simulated battles without any protective measures. Everyone is free to choose the players they want to challenge. The challenger has no right to refuse. There is no limit to the number of people who can challenge." Ling did not participate in many practical exercises, but she was a complete victory every time. But this not only did not discourage the defeated students, but the number of challenges increased every day. Unknowingly, Ling's position in practice changed from opponent to sparring partner. Of course Ling didn't want this situation to develop. She liked to make quick decisions during practical exercises just to reduce trouble, but she didn't expect that it would run counter to her original idea. How good is this? The afternoon class has just begun, and Ling is already exhausted. It will probably become even harder because of Instructor Wilbur's words. When she thought of this, she sighed quietly. Obviously there are more important things to consider now. Ling was listening to Instructor Wilbur's lecture on the podium, and was thinking about another thing that was completely unrelated to the course. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. And La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 236. Last night, after Instructor Letica and Instructor Wilbur sent the students back to the administrator's cabin, they sent Professor Kokina back to the research room. Although Ika didn't know the content of Professor Kokina's work in the imperial capital, it would definitely not be as easy as she said. Ika thinks she should have a good rest today. But if you say such words to her, she will probably be regarded as trying to be lazy and get angry. Ika came to Professor Kokina's research room as usual and suddenly remembered the joke she told last night. Could it be that I'm really not allowed to enter the research room? However, it turned out that Professor Kokina was indeed just joking. The door lock passed Ika's magic ripple verification and the research room was open to him. Putting on her shoes at the entrance, Ika walked into the hall. Today, the ceiling of the hall did not extend to the stairs leading to the second floor. Haven't gotten up yet? Ika looked at the room inside, but the door was still closed. The mechanism that lowers the stairs to the second floor is in Professor Kokina's room, but the stairs can also be taken back directly from the studio on the second floor. So, which room is Professor Kokina sleeping in now? Aika found Professor Kokina's contact address on the PDA, but her PDA was closed and there was no way to contact her. Whether it was the status of the teacher-student relationship or the almost age difference, Aika was hesitant to enter Professor Kokina's room without permission. He walked to the door and knocked politely. If she were inside, she would have noticed a moderate knock on the door. But contrary to expectations, a minute passed and there was still no movement in the room. In that case, Professor Kokina spent the night directly in the studio on the second floor as usual. Aika has reminded her of this problem many times, but she seems to only go back to the room to sleep obediently when Aika spends the night in the research room. If Liu-Yin lives with her, can he control her? Aika thought this while turning the doorknob. The room was unlocked, and Aika walked in cautiously. He had never been in this room before, and now he felt guilty and excited that he was doing something bad. There is a machine with a very complex design placed next to the window on one side. Judging from the folded cloth on it, it must be a sewing machine or something like that. Aika knows that Professor Kokina likes to make some different styles of clothing, but it seems that there are not many finished products in this room, or they have all been put away. Bookshelves, wardrobes, these are just furniture configured in ordinary rooms, and the same is true for the administrator's cabin. The backlit side of the room was a bed. Because the window curtains were closed and Aika didn't turn on the light, she didn't notice it at first. It's okay if you didn't notice it. After Aika looked over, he couldn't help but make a useless sound. In the darkness, an indescribable object was slowly moving. What is this? Fortunately, the light switch is right next to the door, and Aika can reach it with her hand. The room with insufficient light suddenly became brighter, and the indescribable object revealed its true identity under the light. It's just that Professor Kokina huddled up on the bed. She probably turned over just now because she heard the sound of Aika entering the door. She didn't even change her clothes. She didn't care that the knee-length skirt full of lace and ruffles would cause wrinkles, and she was completely immersed in a sweet sleep. Aika quickly looked away from Professor Kokina, ignoring the title of professor. She was just a girl of the same age as Lolo. The sudden light seemed to stimulate Professor Kokina. She moaned and twisted her body, resulting in more and more exposed skin. Alarm bells rang in Aika's mind. Should I run away while she's still awake? Escape is the right option. It should be said that this is the only option. Now that Professor Kokina is dressed like this, and he has entered the room without her permission, no matter how he explains it, he will be regarded as having evil intentions. Aika immediately turned off the light and backed away as silently as possible while paying attention to Professor Kokina's movements. When he was about to retreat to the door, his feet suddenly stepped on something that was obviously not a wooden floor. Aika managed to maintain her balance, but she kicked the door with her heel and made a loud noise. Aika, it was impossible for Professor Kokina to wake up after making such a loud noise. What are you doing here? Professor Kokina's voice was obviously not awake yet, so Aika thought she could fool him. There was a beep sound, and it took Aika half a beat to realize that it was the sound of the PDA cameras starting up. In other words, Professor Kokina just took a picture of Aika even though she was still asleep. We have evidence of your night attack. It's not a night attack, it's already afternoon. Evidence tells the truth. In the dark room, even if the figure in the photo is not that clear, as long as Professor Kokina testifies that this person is Aika, his defense will become worthless. If you send this photo to them, what good things will happen to you? I'm sorry, it's my fault for coming in without permission. Good thing? If it is really sent to their hands, the only good thing worth praying for is that there is no missing part on the body. Well, it's really afternoon. Professor Kokina, who had saved the photo, noticed the time. That's what I just said. Oh, by the way, class starts today. That's why I came in and lowered the stairs. I won't apologize. I would really appreciate it if you would just delete that photo. The photos will not be deleted, and the evidence must be well preserved. So where exactly is this evidence going to be used? Aika no longer has the energy to continue investigating. Why are you still here? How? I'm going to change clothes. Get out. Professor Coconut drove Aika out of the room without any explanation. After closing the door of Coconut's room, Aika sat down tiredly on the sofa in the hall. While waiting for Professor Coconut to change clothes, he had nothing to do. Professor Coconut seems to like to use herself to create topics recently, and it was the same last night. It's not that Aika hates her doing this, it's better to say that this childish approach is a bit cute. What he doesn't understand is why Professor Coconut does this. When she first met Professor Coconut, Aika felt that she was different from any of the girls around her. If I had to find someone to compare with her, it would be Chiyuke. She is somewhat similar to Chiyuke in being able to express her thoughts directly and do whatever comes to her mind. But Chiyuke is both the squad leader and the student council president, and there are certain restrictions on what she can do, which does not allow her complete freedom. She should be very aware of this. Professor Coconut has no such restrictions, so she can fully express herself. Aika knew that the time she had known Professor Coconut was far from enough to understand her. This was just a vague impression of her after becoming her student. Knowing this is enough, Aika thought. Because there is no one who can fully understand the existence outside himself, or even himself. The ceiling slides open laterally and a staircase descends to the second-floor studio. Then Professor Coconut sent a text message from the room. She was going to take a bath and asked Aika to go to the studio to study first. Can't you just come out of the room and tell yourself, but girls may have troubles that they can't understand. Having just done something very rude to Professor Coconut, Aika didn't want to make her unhappy again, so she obediently walked up to the second floor as she asked. Professor Coconut's PDA can manage the entire research room. She watched the screen showing the opening and closing of the door to the studio on the second floor before standing up from behind the door. Until Aika was introduced by Liuyan, Professor Coconut still lived alone in this laboratory and never had to worry about other people. Although it was not enough to walk around the room wearing only underwear or nothing, it was not considered an immodest attire at all. Professor Coconut was already drowsy in the car of the two instructors last night. Not only did catching up on sleep on the airship not relieve fatigue, it actually made it more difficult to open my eyes. After the car stopped steadily in the vestibule of the research room, Instructor Letica thoughtfully woke up Professor Coconut, and she realized that everyone else in the back row had already gone back. When she returned to the room, she threw her personal terminal on the bed. She didn't even want to change her clothes. She lay on the soft bed and slept until now. He suddenly came in and scared me. Professor Coconut didn't even know why she was busy taking pictures at that time. If she just wanted to divert his attention, there were many ways. Just because the PDA is at hand. Last night when I was lying on the bed, my PDA slipped out of my pocket. You probably couldn't see clearly just now. Coconut opened the captured photo. It was completely dark and could not function as evidence at all. She shouldn't be able to see her appearance clearly, so she breathed a sigh of relief as she didn't know that Aika had turned on the light. I have never worried about this kind of thing before. Well, I always feel like I'm doing things I don't want to do. Every time she made a joke, she felt that the joke was meaningless, but she would unconsciously choose the same approach the next time. Do you care too much about him? Professor Coconut suddenly reflected like this. If she really wanted to talk about it, she just felt that it would become more lively with Aika around. This lively feeling was new to her who used to focus on research, that's all. If I take a shower again, there won't be much time left for the afternoon class. In fact, it is time-saving to let him go back now, or to go directly to teach him after changing his clothes. But she was unwilling to accept either option. She wanted him to stay here first, but she couldn't stand in front of him like this, so she rejected both options. Okay, let's go to the bathroom. If you still have time left, take advantage of it. Making a decision secretly, Professor Coconut immediately acted on her own ideas. While she was changing her clothes, she didn't notice the laboratory management program running in the background of the PDA, and the small window flickered. End La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 237. After Aika walked into the familiar studio, she realized that the books she brought were still on the table on the first floor. Professor Coconut shouldn't be able to come here right now, Aika speculated based on the bathing time of the girls at home. He turned around and left the room before he could sit down when he entered the studio. Aika has now discovered that he is not yet able to manipulate mechanical alchemy as skillfully as Ling uses the light flame sword. This was already evident when he faced off against the light flame sword. There are too few attack methods to choose from. This is not the disadvantage of mechanical alchemy, but because I am new to magic mechanics and cannot use its full capabilities. Even if there is only one weapon, it cannot be an excuse for being weak. Most magicians only have one weapon. Having the ability to cheat like mechanical alchemy is already a luxury. The problem lies with himself. If he rigidly applies the design drawings of magic machines, there must be limits. After getting the book back later, let's study whether the magic machines have anything in common that connects them together. If you can construct a rough internal structure of a weapon in your mind based on theory, you should also be able to use mechanical alchemy to create it. Aika walked down the stairs. Ah! The naked Professor Coconut stood there stunned. Why don't you wear clothes? Professor Coconut said she was changing clothes, but in fact she just took off the clothes she was originally wearing. Didn't you just go in? I forgot to get something. Woo! The naked Professor Coconut seemed to be busy condemning Aika, but she forgot that the longer the argument lasted, the more places Aika saw her. In fact, Aika had already looked away from her. He had avoided her since the first time he saw her. If you're taking a shower, shouldn't you take off your clothes in there? Aika could only shirk responsibility on such occasions, as he remembered them doing at home. This is my home. What I want to do has nothing to do with you. Professor Coconut suppressed her shame and looked like she was about to cry, but Aika, who was not looking in her direction, didn't know yet. Obviously entering the bathroom right now is the fastest way to resolve the stalemate, but Professor Coconut didn't realize it in her panic. She could only vent all her feelings of shame and anger on Aika. Sorry, I won't look at you. Please go to the bathroom right away. No, you don't need to say it. After being reminded by Aika, Professor Coconut covered her chest with anger and ran quickly from the stairs into the bathroom around the corner. It wasn't until the bathroom door slammed loudly that Aika turned her eyes away. I was careless, although I knew that this might happen if it was Professor Coconut. It was the result of relying too much on the experience I had accumulated at home. When he walked to the sofa, his books were still placed where he remembered them. This was his original purpose. Even with this explanation, it would be difficult to calm Professor Coconut's anger. But to his surprise, after Professor Coconut came out of the bathroom, she did not continue to condemn Aika or even talk about the incident. It's just that the tasks she assigned to Aika took twice as long, and she was allowed to go home only after they were completed. Aika couldn't complain about this. At least it was much easier to complete the assigned tasks silently than to complain about her own mistakes. Aika was not particularly surprised that Lolo would be waiting on the bench in front of the research room. When he knew that he could not escape Professor Coconut's punishment, he told Lolo that he would go back later today. There had been a time before when Lolo was waiting here, but at that time they still maintained a false relationship. Didn't I ask you to go back first? This time, having abandoned the baggage that had accumulated in her heart for a long time, Aika could finally accept her care for herself frankly. Hearing Aika's voice, Luoluo put down the PDA in his hand and stood up from the bench while holding onto his skirt. It's Sister Ling and Xiao 11 tonight, they won't let me help if they stay at home. Aika, who was only responsible for eating, didn't know how the three people who took turns cooking divided the work. The two began to walk side by side along the school path toward home. The sky was getting dark, and the street lights on both sides of the path flickered on one after another. What about the moonlight bath job? The seniors said it will start again next week, and the third-year seniors are leaving soon. Speaking of which, after entering third grade, everyone started to get busy. Although the first and second grade courses at Shimizuki Academy are very different, they are all conducted in the academy. After entering the third grade, most courses are held in different countries and regions outside the academy. This is to enable students to apply the knowledge they have learned to practice before graduation. The neutral position of Shiyu Academy allows its ungraduated students to receive education and practice from all over the continent, but there is no such treatment after graduation. Is this the same for my brother's job? I haven't started my shift in the big library yet, it should start next week as well. Have you contacted senior sister Lilith? If it were in the past, Luoluo could easily ask this kind of question. But after exposing her feelings to Aika, she thought that this kind of question would have a different meaning when asked from her own mouth. Not yet. Senior Tyruya should have told her about our return. If she didn't come to see us, she should be relieved. But Aika didn't seem to feel the same way as Luoluo, and he told Luoluo straightforwardly what she wanted to know. It's just that I have too much self-awareness, Luoluo thought. I really hate myself for having such thoughts. It's not like that, brother, because he hated himself like this. Luoluo said something that his hating self wouldn't say. Senior Lilith must be waiting for your contact, it must be like this. Although this was tantamount to voluntarily giving up, only by doing so did Luoluo's guilt lessen slightly. Yeah. Aika looked at Luoluo, who reminded him in confusion. He didn't understand the difference in the order of contact. But now that Luoluo said so, Aika felt that Luoluo was definitely right. I'll find a time to send Senior Lilith a text message that evening. Professor Kokina's research room is far away from the administrator's cabin. It would take about half an hour to walk there at normal speed, but the two of them still slowed down intentionally or unintentionally. I wonder what Ling has in mind. Aika suddenly mentioned another thing on her mind. Brother, are you referring to what Senior Tyruya said? The leader of the discipline team is in the same position as the student council president. It is suddenly announced that he will inherit the position of his senior. No matter how hard he thinks, he can't accept it all at once. Should Sister Ling ask Chiuke about this kind of thing? Chiuke, Aika took a moment to catch up with Luoluo's thoughts. Oh, that's right. I remember Senior Sister Lilith said that Chiuke also had such a period before taking over the position of student council president. Chiuke chose to hide at home at that time, but Ling had no place to hide, so he couldn't calm down and think about the problem. I just want to know what Ling is worried about. What would you do if it were my brother? If it were me? Aika simulated that scenario in his mind. I should accept it, I think. That's because my brother has never experienced this kind of thing personally. Luoluo sighed. She seemed not very satisfied with Aika's answer. That's what I'm saying, if you don't have personal experience, you won't consider so many deep-seated issues. If you just imagine the scene, you don't have to make a decision, then you can accept any request. That's a bit of a generalization, but it's the only way Aika could find it. The imaginary scenario is just the most ideal result. What's more, the target is still the Fengji group with which he has no connection at all. Because he has not established a new connection with Ling like Ling, he cannot feel Ling's mood. Brother, I think I can understand what Sister Ling is worried about now. Because you have also had such an experience. Thinking back to the festival that became the opportunity for change. When I was elected by my classmates to be the organizing committee member of the Moonflower Festival, I was very uneasy. I was worried that I couldn't do it, would fail, and let down everyone's expectations, and so on. I also felt that I didn't have the ability to stand up. From the standpoint of commanding everyone. I think Sister Ling may also be considering such a thing. Actually, after you say these words to Ling, it should have an effect. No, it won't happen. Sister Ling is different from me. She has enough strength, and she also has many supportive people in the discipline group. Isn't it the same for you? Ika listened to Luoluo's self-deprecating words and interrupted her with a wry smile. In the end, you succeeded. If it is like you said, with insufficient ability and no one to support, then you can't get such a result. That is. Luoluo was speechless and felt very ashamed. When he was underground, he had promised Ika that he would never say such modest words to trouble him again, but now he could only rely on his comfort. Almost there. Ah! Luoluo raised his head, and the lights of the administrator's cabin could be seen in the distance, and the plants and trees around him became familiar. Under the moonlight, the thick tree in the courtyard of the administrator's cabin extended its branches, and new green covered the branches in the short time since everyone left. It is said that this is a cherry blossom tree. When I moved into the caretaker's cabin last year, it happened to be out of flowering season, but this year I'm sure you can see pink petals flying in the garden. Soon after, it will be a new flowering period, and the cycle repeats. The petals will not accumulate on the ground, they will blend into the soil and become new petals next year. The passing time is like these petals, which will not accumulate and melt into people's hearts. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 238. The bell rang for the last class in the morning, and Ling stood up from her seat almost at the same time. Sorry, I have an appointment today at noon. Tairua-senpai. Why yes. Ling hurriedly left the classroom as if to hide her inner nervousness. Sister Ling, I feel different from yesterday. Wei 11 looked at Ling's hurried away figure, and then looked at Ika. I didn't do anything. Not meeting Wei 11's expectations, Ika felt guilty and looked at Luoluo at the same time. Luoluo, who was stared at closely by the two people, looked away guiltily. Last night, according to what my brother said, I had a little chat with Sister Ling. It's just my brother who asked me to do this. Luoluo added immediately after a while. Ika burst into laughter. Luoluo said such depressing words at that time, but in the end he became Ling's spiritual mentor. What did she say? I'll tell you what Sister Ling thinks after she comes back. I shouldn't refuse. What's wrong? Chiuke came over at this moment. She was also going to have lunch in the classroom today. Hey, where did Ling go? I don't know, she must be wherever Tairua-senpai is. Ika told her where Ling was going as a joke. That's the moonlight bath. I heard Xiaoyaya say yesterday that she planned to let Ling be the leader of the discipline group. Senior Tairua does mean this. Whether Ling will accept it or not remains to be seen. Ika looked at Luoluo, and she shook her head helplessly. I don't know what Sister Ling will do, but she should have found the answer last night. Really? Chiuke showed an expression of relief for a moment, and then immediately returned to his usual energetic look. Then no matter what the outcome is, Ling will not regret it. Can I sit here? Well, will Abby and Zixi also go to the moonlight bath today? Abby and Zixi, who usually had lunch with Chiuke, were nowhere to be found at this time. No, Zixi seems to be feeling a little uncomfortable today. Abby will accompany her back to the dormitory first. Is it serious? Wei 11 asked worriedly. If there is still time left, I will go and take a look. It's okay, just ordinary things. Lugo and Wei 11 immediately understood what Chiuke wanted to express and breathed a sigh of relief. Huh? Is it normal to feel uncomfortable? Brother, you don't need to know. Lugo forced Ika's question back. By the way, these few days when you were away. I don't know if it was to divert Ika's attention, but Chiuke started to talk about some meaningless but interesting trivial things that happened in the twin class during this period of time that no one knew about. Different from the meeting at the beginning of the winter vacation, this time it was Ling who arrived at the agreed place first. Lugo and Zioxi don't have shifts today. Senior Sister Sira, who was waiting in the store, saw Ling walking in alone and stepped forward to say hello. Senior Sister Sierra, long time no see. Today I actually have to meet another senior sister. Ling smiled helplessly. The waiters in the store always seemed to mistakenly think that they came here just to look for Lugo and Wei 11. So that's how it is, but it seems that there are no more. Senior Sister Ciro looked around the store. There are no seats for two people anymore. How about just using the bar? If they don't have to face each other face to face, they should be less nervous, so Ling accepted Senior Sister Cira's proposal. While they were talking, the bell hanging on the door of the store rang. Ling turned around and saw that the person who came in was indeed Senior Tyruya. She simply raised her hand to say hello to Ling, and Ling nodded slightly in greeting. There was no particularly polite exchange between the two. So the person you are waiting for is Tyruya? Tyruya, can you and Ling-san sit over there? There are many more people today than usual. The seats are basically full. It's just because you guys came here at the busiest time. Well, it seems like I'm causing trouble for you. No, you and Ling are also guests. Senior Sira and Senior Tylua turned out to be friends, and this was the first time Ling knew about it. She and Tylua senpai sat side by side at the bar, and Ling tangled her fingers under the table uneasily. Have you decided yet? If you don't mind, tell me about it. The purpose of today is to tell me the answer, right? Senior Tyruya pointed out the problem as soon as she came up, leaving no time for Ling to hesitate. I want to try to do it. I'm not as popular in Shichizuki Academy as Tyruya senpai, and there are many students in the discipline team who are much better than me. But if you think I can do it, I still want to try to work hard to meet everyone's expectations. Luoluo accepted the job of organizing committee member with this mentality at that time. Since Luoluo can do it, Ling is not willing to lag behind her. Well, I understand. Senior Tyruya raised the corner of her mouth with satisfaction, but I want to correct you on one thing. It's not about trying to do it, but trying to do it. If you just try once, you give it a try, it's hard to persevere. Senior Tyruya wears two hats and still doesn't give up. This is what makes Ling feel extremely dazzling. Before I met the real Tyruya senpai, I really hated her from the bottom of my heart. Not only because of the conflict that happened in the imperial capital, but also because Ling thought she was very similar to him. But it turns out that Ling's initial understanding of Tyruya senpai was wrong. There is a huge gap between her and Tyruya senpai. After getting the answer she wanted, Tyruya senpai showed a satisfied smile. I thought you would refuse. Why? I just have this feeling. To be honest, that was really what you thought at first, right? I won't ask more about the rest. Your ability to take over this position has relieved a lot of my burden. I have been struggling with the right candidate. Tylua senpai, can I ask? Ling felt that this was the only question, and she had to know the answer, otherwise she would not be able to fulfill her promise. Why me? There must be more suitable candidates than me, right? Indeed. In terms of strength, the juniors in the element department are very powerful, and there are also some juniors with strong organizational skills. That. But only those with both abilities can stand in this position. This is why I chose you. Ling was stunned. She had never thought that Senior Tairuya would have such great expectations for herself, who had once faced swords with her. Thanks. Even if there are areas where you are not capable, the people around you will definitely help you. Because I have been helped by many people to get all the way to where I am now. Teilua-senpai, have you ever encountered any difficulties that you couldn't solve? Ling originally thought that Tairuya-senpai had gained so many things with her own abilities, but she couldn't imagine Tairuya-senpai showing weakness. No, perhaps Senior Tairuya has never shown weakness. This is why Ling feels that she is very similar to him. But the difference is that Ling did not learn to rely on the strength of the people around her like she did. Now, are we finally a little closer? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. And La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 239. Brad Rossi's figure finally appeared in the pharmacy department classroom today. Haven't seen you for a long time. After confessing to the amnesiac Lolo that night, his attitude was no longer as casual as before and became much more reserved. Long time no see, classmate Brad. When he saw Lolo closing the book in his hand and smiling to himself, Brad Roche showed a hint of joy at that moment, but immediately pretended to be calm and sat down in the seat next to her. Classmate Lolo, have you heard that your memory has been restored? Lolo nodded slightly, and Brad felt reassured but became even more nervous. From the moment he walked into this classroom, he had already begun to work hard to prepare mentally. Then, what happened at that time, do you still remember it? If we are thinking of the same thing. Lolo's face turned red. Although neither of them said it explicitly, the meaning was self-evident. Please allow me to take the liberty of inviting you, after school today, is that okay? Hope rose in Brad Rossi's heart. During the time when Lolo left Chuanjiao Academy, uneasiness filled his heart. Wouldn't she find it annoying if she didn't notice Lolo's strange and reckless confession to her? Thoughts like these occupied Brad Rossi's mind. Although he didn't know whether Lolo's smile was just a formal courtesy or had a deeper meaning, it made him feel excited. Well, because we had an agreement at that time. Thanks. The bell rang for the start of class, and Lolo sent him a text message. This is his own business, and Lolo will never let Ika decide for him again. Moreover, the answer has already been decided by myself. That was the answer Brad Roche had expected. I'm sorry, I can't respond to your feelings. Really, that's it? But if it doesn't make you any more uncomfortable, I want to be your friend. This is what I want to say. If I bring a burden to you, I will try my best not to appear in front of you in the future. There is no such thing as a burden. I heard from Sister Ling that you fought with all your strength for me. To be honest, I am very touched that you can do this for me. But I'm sorry, now I may not be able to think about that kind of thing for the time being. Just such a sentence is enough to pull the young man who is experiencing love for the first time from the ground. This kind of words may be just a form of polite rejection, but Brad Rossi did not invite Lolo just to get the expected answer. Just because his first confession was interrupted by Ika due to an unexpected accident, his self-esteem could not allow his first unrequited love to end like that. Therefore, today, I asked Lolo to be alone with me just so that I could take the initiative to draw the curtain. Actually, I don't really understand this feeling, I just want to protect you. I feel that if you are alone, you will make people uneasy, this feeling. The gentle young man revealed his true feelings to Lolo very embarrassedly, and Lolo listened carefully to the young man's honest heart. So, as a friend, if I can do something for you, I'll probably be satisfied, I'm such a simple person, haha. Thank you, then we are friends now. At least, I can convey my sincere gratitude to him. Lolo held Brad Rosh's hands. If you're a boy, you won't shed tears easily. That's why Brad Roche didn't cry. Lolo could hear the cry in his heart through his hands. She held Brad Rosh's hand tightly until he stopped crying. It would be better if the only person suffering was yourself. Brad Rossi did not make any demands to Lolo until the end. As if he wanted to completely cut off his first love, he resolutely said goodbye to Lolo there. Lolo was walking home alone. The PDA rang in the pocket of his uniform many times, but Lolo couldn't help but look at it. The answer that had been decided upon was hurt by two people at the same time. She was very tired, both physically and mentally. On the way back to the caretaker's cabin, Lolo had barely adjusted his mentality, but he still let his family see the remaining traces. I had a little chat with my friend. She smiled and explained why she came back so late. The only person who knew about this was Ika, so he didn't ask anything. Ling and Wei 11 realized from Ika's abnormal attitude that there was something hidden between them. Lolo hid in the room after dinner. Aren't you going yet? What can I do if I go? You know why Lolo is depressed, right? I probably know a little bit. Is it something we can't know? Ika was silent for a long time, and finally shook her head. After learning from Ika about the meeting between Lolo and Brad Luashi, Ling finally understood the reason why Ika would hesitate here. Brother Ika, did you say anything to Lolo? Didn't say anything. Why are you just watching this time? Last time I intervened just because Lolo didn't know the current situation. Now that her memory has recovered, I promised to let her make her own decision. Ika's tone increased impatiently. He just couldn't vent his inner anxiety. Then, now that the result has been achieved, are you still going to do nothing, brother Ika? You should know her thoughts clearly, right? Sister Ling and I will do the work here. No matter what the outcome is, you won't interfere, right? Then you will know sooner or later, right? What's the difference between earlier and later? Sister Ling, let brother Ika think about it. Anyway, that's it. I finally came back, but you still made the atmosphere so depressing. After Ling Hua said this, he turned around and prepared to put the dishes into the sink. Sorry, I'll go deal with it. Indeed, as Ling said, there is no difference between doing it earlier or later, and the latter will only make the hard-won life worse and worse. Wouldn't it be wrong to do this earlier? It would make me seem like a bad person. Feel sorry. I will accept your apology this time. We must keep our spirits up tomorrow morning. Well. Wei 11, thank you. Ika turned to Wei 11 again, touched her head, then turned and walked up the stairs. Wei 11 was briefly distracted when her head was suddenly touched, and then she noticed that she was the only one left in the restaurant. She quickly brought the remaining things into the cooking room, and the sound of Ling washing the dishes could be heard from the sink. Sister Ling. It doesn't matter, this is right. Ling still lowered her head and focused on the work in hand, but her voice did not have the usual sense of loss after saying such words, which made Wei 11 smile with relief. Sister Ling, I also like brother Ika. Wei 11's sudden words made Ling stop what she was doing, and she looked at Wei 11 behind her in surprise. Xiao 11, do you really understand this feeling? Ling was very surprised by Wei 11's sudden confession, and she dubiously confirmed it to her. Before Ling looked at her, Wei 11 covered her expression with her long bangs. She staggeredly placed the table where she was holding on the edge of the sink, then pressed her hand on her chest to confirm her mood in front of Ling. Then she raised her head, clasping her hands behind her back, and her slightly tilted bangs no longer served as a cover. Yes, I feel the same as Sister Ling, and the same as Lolo. Wei 11, as usual, had a hint of timidity in her smile, but Ling felt that such a smile did not allow anyone to deny it. I don't know when a smile appeared on my lips. Really, you all ran ahead of me. Is this escape? I didn't run away. The words that suddenly popped out of Ling's mouth made Wei 11 wave her hands in panic to defend herself. Xiao 11, do you know the meaning of escape? I know, I've seen it in the book. There is no age limit for books now. Wu. Feeling that she was being looked at strangely by Ling, Wei 11 shyly began to tremble. Thank you, Xiao 11. I will also think about this issue carefully. Ling knelt down in front of Wei 11, because I don't want to lose any more. Well, Sister Ling, must. Okay, let's finish the things here first. Because her hands were stained with water, Ling couldn't touch Wei 11's little head. Xiao 11, will you go to the bathroom with me later? Together. I just want to change my mood. Woo. Wei 11 thought of the time they took a bath together on the eve of the Moonflower Festival, and steam seemed to come out of her head. Seeing Wei 11's coy look, Ling also recalled the same thing. No, I won't do weird things to you anymore. Although Wei 11 still didn't seem to completely believe Ling, she still nodded gently and agreed. Brother, do you want me to accept it? Determined to confirm the answer to Luoluo, after making this determination, he became particularly eager to know. But Luoluo asked rhetorically as if to make Aika more anxious. And it made Aika feel that no answer could express her feelings. You know, after your memory recovers, I will no longer interfere with this matter. This is what I promised him at the beginning. The first half of the sentence seemed to contradict the second half, but that was all he could say. If you say you don't want it, you will be hated by Luoluo. This idea was too selfish for her. Moreover, Aika still wants to believe Luoluo's confession to herself. Probably, this is the answer my brother wants to hear. Yet, Aika didn't understand what was going on with her current mood. He was obviously relieved because of Luoluo's answer, but he also felt that her statement was out of concern for his own mood and made him irritated. Actually, I still don't know what it feels like to be in love between a boy and a girl. But at that time, because I'm so close to my brother, and it's my first time, so this feeling is a bit incomprehensible. How should this kind of love be classified? Of course, Luoluo's question is not one that Aika can answer. So brother, please give me some time to understand. This time, Aika just touched Luoluo's head instead of hugging her again. Well, that's it. In order to understand each other, we slightly opened the distance that was too close. Luoluo wanted to get the answer, and so did Aika, so neither of them had any regrets. Existing relationships return to their original point, while new relationships are quietly forged. End La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 240. When Luoluo was preparing breakfast for 3 people, Ling came here in advance. It's already a consensus that Aika sleeps in, so it's not surprising that he hasn't appeared here yet. Ling probably came here at this time. Sister Ling, good morning. Morning. Ling stood there for a while, then turned and walked into the bathroom. Soon, she finished washing. Luoluo, do you need help? Yeah. Thank you. Luoluo stepped aside slightly, allowing Ling to stand over as well. Would you like to hear something from me now? Ling asked quietly beside Luoluo while taking action. I thought about it for a long time last night, so this should be what I really think about. Lolo, I think, you and I may have fallen in love with the same person. Well, it's my brother. Actually, you don't need to think about it for so long. Sister Ling has already fallen in love with my brother from a long time ago. Luoluo didn't look at Ling. She had finished preparing the last step and was ready to serve. I didn't. Xiao 11 also noticed that Sister Ling is not good at hiding things. In that case, Luoluo, you really do too, do you like him? But you. Ling restrained herself and swallowed the words that came to her lips. At this time, Ling couldn't use the brother-sister relationship to restrain Luoluo's feelings. I know what Sister Ling wants to say, and I don't know whether this feeling is right or wrong. But as long as we live as before, we will get the answer one day. But at this moment of sincere confession, can the same as before still be realized? Luoluo doesn't know either. Sister Ling, Luoluo, it's so early. At this time, Wei 11 also rubbed her eyes and walked down the stairs. She heard the voices in the kitchen and came over. Xiao 11, have you gotten up by yourself? Wei 11 would be woken up on time by Ling every morning, but today she woke up by herself. Sister Ling is not here. When she woke up in a daze, she found that Ling was not around, so she came down to look for him. Haha, Xiao 11 is completely attached to Sister Ling. I don't want to be like this. Ling muttered sheepishly. Ever since the light flame sword called Wei 11 by her nickname without authorization, Ling thought that Wei 11 might be greatly harmed if she changed her words, so this way of calling her continued. Moreover, Ling no longer felt any resistance to this term. If Guanjianjian hadn't opened his mouth first, Ling might have been unable to scream. Wei 11 also took a step closer to Ling at that time. Are you talking about Brother Ika? Did you hear everything? Ling hasn't told Wei 11 these words yet. She said she would seriously consider it last night. After confirming her thoughts, she noticed that Wei 11 had fallen asleep. No. You can't hear clearly from the other side of the stairs. Wei 11 shook her head. I just saw the expressions of Luoluo and Sister Ling, and I had a vague feeling like this. Xiao 11, do you like my brother too? She was still in a daze and was startled by Luoluo's question, and her big eyes suddenly became moist. Don't worry, I'm just asking casually, nothing special. Realizing that this question was too abrupt and frightened Wei 11, Luoluo quickly tried to deal with it. I have found the answer. Ling looked at Wei 11 with firm eyes and conveyed his answer to the child who was guiding him, so Xiao 11, I will not run away anymore. Really? Wei 11, who had regained consciousness, laughed and looked at Luoluo. Has Luoluo also found the answer? Well, I really still like my brother. Because only your own mood will never deceive yourself. Ling smirked and explained for her what Luoluo said when she lost her memory. Luoluo immediately remembered the scene of kissing the unconscious Ika without authorization at that time, and her cheeks turned red. We are really unqualified family members. Wei 11 couldn't help but laugh. After becoming family members, this bond continues to deepen, so much so that we can no longer stop as family members. This was a sprout that Ika didn't know was born in the early morning. By the way, Luoluo's birthday is coming soon. Ika leaned forward on the desk during the break and suddenly said the sentence. Did you just remember? Ling seemed to have already known about Luoluo's birthday. She looked at Ika in surprise, as if she just realized it now. Why are you talking about this suddenly? Have you never thought about it yourself? Although I have thought about it, but I specifically said it like this. Luoluo glanced at the client Ika reluctantly. There are still 3 days left. Wei 11 counted her fingers and reported the exact time. Is there any gift you want? Elder brother. Luoluo accepted the ownership of the questioner without thinking. This kind of gift is too cheap. Ling, to be honest, I'm very hurt. Do you want to be worthless? It's even more outrageous. Ling ignored Ika's wailing and turned around to continue discussing Luoluo's birthday with them. Ika has indeed never forgotten Luoluo's birthday. He was also worried that if Luoluo had not recovered his memory by then, he would have to give up this year's birthday. But now that there is no need to worry, another problem arises. When he lived in the village, his family would mobilize the whole village to prepare for Luoluo's birthday with great fanfare, but there is definitely no way to do it now. On Ling's birthday, Aika followed the advice of Luoluo and Wei 11 and took her for a walk in the commercial district of the neutral area. Is this the only way to do this time? I heard something interesting. With his ears twitching and perked up, Chiuke ran into the circle of 3 girls. Monitor, if you run around in the classroom, you will be caught by teacher Letica. Is Luoluo's birthday coming soon? Abby also followed Chiuke with Zixi. Well, I'm thinking about what I should do now. Ling didn't care whether Luoluo wanted everyone to know or not, so she just said it. You don't need to do anything specifically for me, as long as I know that everyone has this kind of intention, I will be very satisfied. That's not okay. Now that we heard it, we have to help too. Chiuke raised his hand excitedly, and then looked at Abby and Zixi expectantly. You don't need to tell me, I'm ready to help. Lolo's birthday is well worth looking forward to. Sure enough, we should have a birthday party to make it more exciting. Chiuke imagined the ideal birthday party and decided on his own initiative what to do for Luoluo's birthday. It should be difficult to hold a birthday party or something. Aika initially thought so too, but it was difficult to realize from all aspects. Our house should be able to seat so many people, right? Ling began to consider using the administrator's cabin directly as the venue. As for the ingredients, there are still a lot. It seems you haven't asked me what I think. Luoluo looked at the heated discussion and could only laugh weakly. Even if I ask you what you think, I'll just say it's not necessary. Woo. Luoluo was speechless after being criticized by Ling. She really didn't want to cause trouble to everyone. Why are everyone gathered together? Carlo also walked into the classroom at this time, and Aika just saw him talking to girls in other classes at the door of the classroom. I found a coolie. When Chiuke saw Carlo, he had a flash of inspiration and pulled him over. Coolie. Carlo didn't know at this moment that he was being targeted by the girls at this moment. It must be a bit tight to have only Aika as a boy. Having one more boy at this time really helps a lot. Okay, we decided to let Aika and Carlo become free coolies. So, Ling arranged work for the 2 of them. Aika, what's going on? Don't ask me, I'm just a coolie. That's how you decided. Luoluo's voice can no longer reach the ears of everyone who is eager to try. By the way, remember Wei 11's birthday is also at this time. Aika's words brought up the topic that was about to come to an end. Is Xiao 11's birthday also at this time? That's great. This way the 2 of us can celebrate their birthdays together. The unexpected information reignited Chiuke's excitement. It seems that she will be the most active person at this birthday party. Brother Aika. The person involved, Wei 11, looked at Aika in confusion, and Aika just blinked at her when no one was paying attention. Hey, are you serious? During class, Ling, who was sitting behind Aika, gently poked his back with the tip of her pen. Of course I'm serious. While being careful not to let Wei 11 in the front row hear, Aika leaned back as hard as she could. You haven't even asked her what she thinks. Even if I ask, you already know what the answer will be. That's true. Wei 11 doesn't know her birthday, so she has no birthday celebration experience. Aika did not want to take advantage of Luoluo's birthday to invite Wei 11 to participate, but had deeper considerations. Do you remember when we met? That was. Ling was suddenly asked by Aika about what happened a year ago, and Ling recalled it. I can't remember the exact time, but it was probably in April. She understood what Aika was trying to say. That's it? We met at this time, so I had this idea. I also met you at this time. Only Wei 11 was treated differently, and Aika, who did not turn her head, heard dissatisfaction in her voice. Don't you know your birthday? Even so, forget it, since you also gave me a birthday present, I'll let you go this time. Ling played with the hanging hair and returned her attention to teacher Letica's teaching. As expected, Wei 11 anxiously asked Ika after class. Just after making that statement, the bell for class rang immediately, so Wei 11 lost the opportunity to ask. She must have been paying no attention to the lectures throughout the class, as she immediately turned around from her seat when the bell rang. "Brother Ika, why did you say that at that time?" Wei 11 was not reluctant, there was only pure confusion in her eyes. It's natural that she would be at a loss when she was suddenly promoted to the protagonist. "Wei 11, you don't know when your birthday is, do you?" Then let that day be your birthday, the day we met." Birthdays are a special day to commemorate the birth into the world. I think that day is as special as a birthday for us. Because everyone met, everything changed. Not only Wei 11, everyone started a new life that was different from the past on that day. It would be nice to treat a day like this as your birthday. Ika felt that Wei 11 had the same idea as herself, and her eyes became moist. Yes. For Wei 11, from that day on, the world that had become black and white became colored again. Therefore, she would be extremely honored if that day could be her birthday. Ika sent a text message to Liuyan and received a reply in the evening. He told Liuyan about his decision to decide Wei 11's birthday without permission, and invited her to attend Luo and Wei 11's birthday party. But now Liuyan, who is in another city, has no way to come in time, so she can only regretfully decline Ika's invitation. "I will send my blessings to them." Liuyan should be preparing to contact Luo and Wei 11 alone. Although it is a pity that she cannot come directly to participate this time, Ika will not give up and continue to look for such opportunities. With everyone's help, preparations for the birthday party are proceeding steadily. The friendly sponsorship brought by Chiuke from his own family also relieved everyone's financial pressure. During this period, Luo and Wei 11 were banned from the administrator's cabin, and they were sent to Chiuke's dormitory, where they stayed for 2 days just like Ling and Wei 11 once did. "I don't feel like I'm sleeping at home. I always feel a little weird." "Yeah, right, I felt like this when I was in first grade, but now I'm completely used to it." Ika felt that there seemed to be no room for her to intervene between the two of them, so she could only watch them from a distance. The relationship between Luo and Chiuke seems to have become better than before in such a short period of time. Is this the effect of girls sleeping in the same bed? Speaking of which, Ling and Wei 11 also slept together in the caretaker's cabin, and their relationship became better after that. Maybe this was indeed the reason. Ika speculated on things she would never experience based on her own fantasies, thinking that it would be impossible for boys to have such an effect. "Ika, Abby and Zixi asked the two of us to go out for a run with them in the afternoon. Go to the business district to pick up something." That was all that was left to do. The caretaker's cabin was completely decorated. "That's it? Brother Ika." Wei 11 walked out of the small circle. "Is it tomorrow?" She was full of expectations for tomorrow's arrival, but she was also a little bit regretful. Ika knows that she has such concerns, but Wei 11 is a very considerate child. In order to live up to everyone's good intentions, she will try her best to enjoy it. "Well, look forward to it." "I will look forward to it, but I feel like I can't help." What if the protagonist helps? Ika rejected her idea. "Besides, wouldn't there be no surprises if I let you know the preparation process?" "I know, I will definitely not cry tomorrow." "Please, don't cry." After convincing Wei 11 to leave, Ling, who had been listening to the conversation between the two, spoke. "What a good man. Why didn't I hear any praise in your words?" "It's your illusion." "I hope it's just an illusion. Forget it about being a child. I didn't expect that even I would be deceived by your sweet words." Ling lowered her eyes, feeling helpless for this time. "What did you just say?" "Nothing." "Yeah." Ika always feels that she misses important words every time, but when she asks questions back, there is no answer. Looking at Ling again, she looked out the window thoughtfully, then stared back coldly after noticing Aika's gaze. Do you have anything to say? No. Then don't look here. As she spoke, she moved her gaze to the window again, but her already blushed cheeks became even redder. Aika was just fascinated by her side face for a moment, but of course she wouldn't tell Ling herself about this kind of thing. He didn't know if his feeling was wrong, but Ling seemed to have undergone a fundamental change during this period. Aika couldn't describe her specific feelings, but she just felt that she should have made up her mind on a certain matter and abandoned the feeling of confusion.